This is my Urban Decay eyeshadow palette collection. Welcome to everybody watching today. Thank you so very much for joining me. Today I have my Urban Decay eyeshadow palette collection video for you. Some people already saw when I was filming my makeup memory box in May for you guys that I had left this out, and I left it out deliberately because I was like, then I can film a video for eyeshadow palette month showcasing my Urban Decay palettes. These are no longer in use. None of them are. This is part of my makeup memory box, so I'll make sure to link you in the description box down below to the other video that I filmed with the other half of my makeup memory box, but these are literally in a different box. So it's like, I don't think there's that much like of a setback if I show them this at a different point in time. Some of these are a little sticky because they have that rubberized packaging that gets really dirty. So I do apologize for how some of these look, but some of these are years old. Again, they don't really look that used because especially when I was first starting out with makeup, these were my precious things, and I wasn't going to go and dig around in my eyeshadow palettes that were like 60 euros because at the time I didn't have that many things. So I was like doing the little, like the smallest of swipes with some of these, even though I've had them for like more than a decade. I know with some people, their naked palettes look very used. This is the reason why mine don't show that, because I was like I was afraid to break them, essentially. So of course, you are going to see all of the naked palettes pretty much that I have in my possession. The Naked 2 and Naked 3 I fused together into one palette, so I only have one packaging. I do still have two of them pristine as backups in like my wardrobe as well, but got the Naked 1, of course, the original. Like I said, this is very old and I used it a lot, but at the time I didn't really go into pans as hard as I normally do nowadays, so that's why it looks barely used for that reason. This also really wasn't my color story. I like the Naked 2 and the Naked 3 a lot better, so once those were launched, this is something that was like kind of forgotten in my makeup collection. We don't really get makeup like this anymore, do we? Now that I look at it. This was such a good neutrals palette, and this really put neutral palettes on the market, of course, like it just did. This is my packaging for the Naked 2. I have a video up somewhere where I reorganized my Naked 2 to have a fusion of both the Naked 2 and the Naked 3 in. So these shades aren't all original to this palette, but I've kept all my favorites from each palette. So this one does look a lot more used because this is just simply what I reach for a lot more. You can see a nice little dent in here. I've got a nice little dent in here. Ooh, this one's popping out, which is a bit of a shame. So these are really lovely eyeshadows that I use, and I had this even in my makeup collection for a little while as like a good like daily use, like don't know what to do kind of palette. But then it just got too old because this again, like I think I got my Naked 2 around like 2010 or 2011, whenever it was launched. So that got a little like too old to use. I've got my Naked Honey here. Really lovely, more yellowy undertoned color story. I liked this a lot at the time, but I have other neutrals with a pop of yellow that I just prefer over this. The Zoeva Blanc Fusion comes to mind as an alternative to this that I actually like better than this, than I like that one. Then I have the Naked Reloaded, which I just wasn't a huge fan of. I don't understand why they did this. I don't think we needed this. And this was also the start of the peachy tones in the Naked palettes, in my brain. So let me see what else we have here. We have the Naked Smoky. I love this. It was a little bit dark for me, but I did really enjoy quite a few of these like gray tones here. That's why those look the most used. Because every single time I went into this, I went into those bluish grays. But this had some gorgeous tones, and I just didn't really have a good crease shade. I needed something like in between these two to really make it work for me. The Naked Wild West, this is a sort of warm toned with a pop of teal. We all know I like that. I've got something similar on my lids today that's a little bit more orange leaning, but color stories like this always appeal to me. It's just something I have a million times over in my makeup collection, so I didn't need to keep the Urban Decay version of it per se. A classic, Naked Heat. This is where Urban Decay really started to like miss the mark, because this came out as like their response to all the warm tones that were going around, but it was like released 2 years too late really. Gorgeous warm tone palette though. It is a really good warm tone palette as far as warm tones go. The Naked Cherry, and here we got the peachy tones that were in like every single rendition. Everything was peach down here. I like these pinky tones. They were a little bit more berry than cherry colors on me. But again, their answer to like the pinky tones in the Mono Renaissance, and it came way too late. The Ultraviolet had so much potential, but then they had these like very violetly blue, purple sort of things in, and then they put peaches in there, where you're like, how does that mix and match? There were some gorgeous tones in here. They had some duochromes in here, really pretty, but again, not something I reached for because I just had other purple toned eyeshadow palettes I like better. And then the final Naked palette I actually bought, of the larger guys, is the Naked Cyber. I think this is the final one that I could really get my hands on. Urban Decay has gotten really hard to find here in Europe. I can only find it online if I want to. And here again, loads of peachy tones and then some like duochromes, shifty shades. But of course you can find much better shifty shades at indie brands. So this was like the last time that Urban Decay did an eyeshadow palette that really appealed to me. I think they did a Metal Mania one or something along those lines. That one I skipped. I didn't even try to get my hands on that. I have the Backtalk palette, which is a palette I used to really love. The mirror, though, was a bit of a faff because you could take it out. And then you had face palettes, like a face palette on this side and eyeshadows on that side, but it just wasn't as mauvey as I wanted it to be. There were a lot of warm tone browns in it. So a bit of a miss, and I actually ended up using quite a few of the cheek palettes, of the cheek products in the eyeshadows. I use them as eyeshadows. Naked Basics, Ultimate Basics, this was all matte. I don't like all matte palettes. I don't even know why I own this, but at the time I was a bit of a completionist and I wanted to own every single Urban Decay palette, so that's why I have that. This was everyone's favorite for a while, the Born to Run. I'll show you in a sec, but this is essentially the Vice 3, but updated. Was this beautiful? Yes. Was this necessary in my collection? No, I didn't love this as much as everybody else did. And then here is where we get the stickiness. But I've got all three of the Naked Basics Mini. So here's the Naked 3 Basics. This is so sticky because it got stuck to the other ones for a while there. This I still love, but I just have other things that do this for me now. So I wasn't using it a lot. This sticky one is the original Naked Basics. Also really pretty, but I didn't really need like 4 tones that do exactly the same thing, essentially. And then the Naked 2 Basics, I tended to reach for a little bit more. These were like my favorite matte shades for a while. Who remembers this? The Lux Shadow Box. This was my first ever Urban Decay palette that I still own. I used to have one more that I decluttered, and I now wish I didn't. I had the Sustainable palette at some point in time, but this just had some singles in that they sold as singles, and that was a palette, so not a cohesive color story, unfortunately. And that pretty much goes for the rest of these palettes. None of these are very like cohesive color stories. These all predate having cohesive color stories, in my brain anyways. Their Rainbow palette, the Spectrum, which I liked. The Full Spectrum was a good palette in my book. But at the time, I hadn't tried too many indie brands yet, and around this time, we got more indie brands, and there were so many other rainbow palettes on the market already that a lot of people like better, so this one tanked a little bit, but I liked mine when I had it. So the angle has changed a little bit because I have to charge my battery because it's almost empty, but I'm almost done filming this video. I was like, do I want to run downstairs to grab my extra battery? No, I don't. The Urban Decay After Dark was a companion palette to the Electric palette. I never got that because it had too many shades that I didn't like the look of. But this I liked the look of. It was a little bit more like the grungy sister to the Electric palette. It had Lounge in, which is their like standard duochrome. And it had some other really, really fun shades in. I mainly liked Fringe in here. That's why I still kept using it for some time. But again, not very used because at this point in time I started to really collect eyeshadow. The 50th Anniversary Jewelry Box, anyone? I love this one, especially Omen, because that was that like blacklight sort of blurple kind of thing I liked. I liked Evidence, and I also really enjoyed Deep End in here. But again, it had a lot of shades in that were pretty similar, and everything in here had shimmer, which was another caveat. Again, this predates having cohesive color stories. Remember what I said? What was this? The Heavy Metals palette, and this does have a mirror in the middle. So I'm going to, can I put you over it? Ooh, don't fall. I'm gonna do it like this, because else you can't see, but you had the colorful metal shades and then the neutral metal shades. These were just all metallics, and they were really, really pretty. This is what a palette looks like if I hold it up like that, and then it just slides in like that. The packaging is a bit cumbersome because of this. It's very raised and therefore a little bit awkward. I have one of their sort of like, what were these called? Beauty boxes or whatever. So this is Alice in Wonderland themed. So it opens up like this. A shadow box, I think it was called. And then it opens up like this, and it's got the thing in here. And then it has a tray with all of the shades in. And this corresponds to the Alice in Wonderland movie that they collabed with at the time. So this has wonderful shades in, but again, a little bit disjointed as to what colors can go together. And that actually went for all of these guys as well. I'm going to start with the top one because that's a sticky one. That's the Vice one. This feels so gross. This is why I can no longer use these either, because they're just sticky and dusty and yuck. This is the Vice one. And this is a beautiful color story, but again, pretty disjointed and not necessarily something that makes you go like, oh, I want to put those colors together. It's got quite a few neutrals in, actually. Some neutrals with some pops of bright colors. Then we have the Vice 2. This is a little bit murkier, I find. This is a little bit more toned down. It's not as bright with the pops of color. I always like these pinks that you got in here. But there's also two beautiful purples in here. Betrayal was my favorite. Those like blurply shades I still like till this day. Then this was the Vice 3. And now of course I put the other one somewhere else. Where did it go? Here's the Vice 3, which has very similar tones in as the Born to Run, which I've shown you in other videos as well. So this is why I didn't enjoy my Born to Run as much, because it's like the Vice 3 but with more warm tones. Do you see the overlap? I'm not sure you can see, but I just felt there were too many shades in here that were similar, so I still reach for my Vice 3 over the Born to Run. And this has always been my favorite, and this was actually one that was very hard to find for me. There's a bit of lore behind this. I actually traveled to the US the year that this came out, and I could no longer find it anywhere in Europe, but I could find it on the US website. So I had it shipped over to a friend I was going to meet up with in New York, and then she lugged it across like 4 states to get it to me, and then I lugged it around for that entire trip when I was in the US. So, and then we have the Vice 4, which is very dusty on the inside. I always really like this packaging design the best of all of the Vice palettes, this one. Like Vice palettes, there was a limited edition one that had the bright chartreuse, like limey sort of color. That one was impossible to get anywhere in Europe, but this is really, really pretty, and again, something I really liked. Maybe that was the Vice 4 and this was the Vice 3. I put them in that order because else I would forget. But yeah, I always liked this one as well. I liked, was it Flame? Flame was a really, really fun shade to play with at the time. So those are all of my Urban Decay eyeshadow palettes. Ooh. So those were all of my Urban Decay eyeshadow palettes. Let me know, was there a brand like this back in the heyday of the eyeshadow palette? I would say like between 2010 and 2018, those 8 years I really see as like the heyday of the eyeshadow palette, and everything was eyeshadow palettes wherever you looked, left, right, and center. Was there a brand like this where you collected it and then you wanted to keep it all? Because I've only done this to my Urban Decay palettes. I had every like chocolate bar from Too Faced, and I had a bunch of ABH palettes as well. And those I just never really felt like I had to keep around. I just kept my favorites. and those are either now in a makeup memory box or I'm still using them. But it's not like, I don't know why, but with Urban Decay, I just wanted to keep these very close to me, and I think it's the brand that's really got me into eyeshadow in the end. So therefore I really enjoyed that one most compared to everything else. My camera battery is overheating, so I need to stop talking and let you guys go. So thanks so much for watching me here today. Thumbs up this video if you liked it. Subscribe if you want to see more by me, and then I hope to see you again really soon in a new video. Bye bye.